Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Arc Synergy. Make sure you stick around. Today we're going to go over another state licensure information. So in those videos, you'll get all the information that you need in order to apply to renew your speech language pathology license in any state in the US. So feel free to check out our library of videos. Episodes, we go over each specific state licensure separately so they're easy to find and go through. And without any further ado, let's go into today's episode. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to go over Michigan licensure information. So this week, we're going to start with how to obtain a full SLP license in Michigan. Michigan is not part of the ASLP interstate compact. So every out of state SLP needs a Michigan, you need to go through the full licensure application process in order to practice in Michigan. So, and what makes it Michigan stand out is not just the standard application requirements, it also has additional mandatory trainings that are separate from like your CE hours that you need to do in order to maintain your license. It also has a cap on how many ASHA credits council for your CEU. So we'll review those during the renewal video. And also, it also has very specific praxis requirements as well that comes into play if you are already licensed in another state and using that to apply for a license in Michigan. So let's go through it. As I said, there are no compact privilege practice in Michigan's. So you'll need a full Michigan license in order to practice in that state. So you need to factor that into your contract timeline if you're traveling SLP or if you're planning to start a job at a specific time. In general degree requirements, Michigan requires a master's or doctoral degree in speech language pathology. That is nothing new for an accredited program. If your program is accredited by the ASHA Council of Academic Accreditation, you will meet the requirement automatically, of course. For anyone that is a foreign or um, as in you went to a foreign school or you went to a school that is not accredited, you will need to provide the Michigan State Department with a full course by course credential evaluation form, and before application can even be processed. Now, next, let's go into the mandatory trainings that they have. So Michigan requires some training, like I said, that are separate and do not count towards your CE. So that includes a human trafficking training hour. So you need that one time before initial licensure, and you will have to complete it again if your license was lapsed and you're reapplying again for a full licensure. You'll have to complete it again. This is not a recurring requirement, so this is just a one-time requirement for the human trafficking training. And they also have additional other training that are required for renewal, but again, we'll cover those during the renewal licensure video. If you hold a current ASHA certification of clinical competence, so if you have your C's, Michigan will accept that as long as it is sent directly from ASHA as a substitute for transcript and fellowship documentation. Michigan also accept the CA SLP, a certification that is the Canadian equivalent under the same term. So this is useful for SLPs who are trained or currently practicing in Canada that are moving to Michigan. I hope that today's episode have been really enjoyable for you so far. Please take the time to leave us a review, to leave us a comment, and to like today's episodes. It will really help us develop those videos and put them out faster. And if you have the time, feel free to check out the Arc Synergy app on both iOS and Android. The app is free and there's a free clinician plan, so you don't have to worry about doing any subscription to get started in the app. And let me know what you think. Now, let's get back into the episode. So, now let's talk about endorsement and praxis rules. If you hold an active SLP license in another US state and are applying by endorsement, you must provide, of course, verification of every state license you have ever held, showing good standing and that you did not have any sanctions for those licenses. The praxis is required for endorsement applicants. If you have been licensed for less than 5 years, you still need to submit praxis scores, even though you already hold a license elsewhere in the US. The scores must be sent directly from ETS to Michigan using the code 7430. If you have been licensed for 5 or more years and your licenses are in good standing, the praxis requirement is waived for endorsement applicants. Now, there's another caveat for Canadian applicants. So SLP license in Canada can again apply via endorsement as well into Michigan, but the praxis is still required regardless of how long you've been licensed. So you will also need license verification from Canada, the province where you are practicing, and documentation of your education completion. All new applicants must also complete a fingerprint for the national background check. They will also ask standard moral character questions on the application. If you answer yes to any of them, you'll need to provide additional documentation showing either rehabilitation or that the prior offense was dismissed. Disciplinary action from any other state or country must also be disclosed, but that is a standard practice across all states. Another interesting thing about Michigan is that they have a separate, like narrow scoped credential called the limited license for SLPs who hold a Michigan teaching certificate endorsed in speech and language impairment as of January 12, 2009. So this is a legacy credential with very specific restrictions. So it authorizes practice only in the school settings, so the school district, intermediate school district, non-public school, and state departments that are providing educational services. No clinical fellowship is required. So you don't need to have completed your CF in order to apply for that credential, which is really nice. But you cannot supervise CF students if you only have that credential. And it does not authorize any practice outside of an educational, employment, or contract setting. All applications go through MI Plus. The credential requires the same human trafficking certification we talked about earlier and implicit bias trainings as well. And you still need to provide license verification from all other states you've ever been licensed at, even if you're only going for the teaching credential. SLPs providing services through the Michigan Early On program. So this is for the early intervention practices. So you will still need the state SLP license, of course. Plus, you'll need to have completed the essentials of early on training. So that covers evaluation, family training, counseling, and service coordination. So that is a separate credentialing step from the standard license. So you have to keep that in mind if you want to practice in early intervention setting. Now let's go over the fees. The initial SLP license application fee is $187.40. So $187.40 is the initial SLP license application. So that includes all the fees. You will pay that fee via the portal, of course. They accept credit and debit card. So in closing, Michigan, again, is not part of the compact licensing agreement. It does have separate mandatory training that you need to complete, a one-time training you need to complete for your initial application. The practice exam is required even if you are applying via endorsement, if you've been licensed for less than 5 years in another state. If you have your HSCs, it will cover the educational and requirements for you. And that's about it for Michigan. Our next video will cover the provisional license procedure for Michigan, and so for new graduates that are about to complete the clinical fellowship. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.